You ready for a personal statement?
Yeah, I can do it. Sure.
All right. So I'll read this email from A. Hi, Nathan and Ben. Greetings from Vancouver, Canada. I have been
Sweet.
listening to your podcast. What?
I love Vancouver. You've been to Vancouver?
Never been.
Absolutely one of the greatest places on earth. Must go. Spectacularly beautiful. And it's in Canada, which means it's just more civilized. Highly recommend. Can't wait until COVID is over and my American passport will once again get me over the border into Canada.
Cool. I've been listening to your podcast over the last couple of months and have got to say, it is an absolute gem. Well, not everybody agrees with that, but thank you.
No. Many people find it a turd rather than a pearl. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I am also a newer Demon Premium subscriber, and I'm finding the delivery of information easy to follow, informative, and surprisingly enjoyable. I am particularly grateful for the strategies, lessons, and the drilling function.
Easy to follow. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Yep. I appreciate how critical the two of you are when reading personal statements on the podcast. I have attached mine to this email for your use and destruction. I really hope you use it. I'm applying to the University of British Columbia, where the limit for personal statements is 1,400 words. I am well short of that and do not feel the need to add more unless the two of you recommend otherwise. Probably not, but we'll see. I also have questions with regards to what to include and what not to include in an addenda. My educational journey was a bit of a shit show, and I would like to provide the admissions committees an explanation for this. Should I do this in my personal statement? No. I'm just answering that right now. I am honestly a bit lost and would really appreciate the guidance. The two of you have made studying for the LSAT and applying to law school a little less daunting, sometimes even fun. Shout out to everyone on your team who makes what you do possible. Thanks. And yes, I agree. A shout out to the team. We really appreciate all that they do. I want to talk about this addenda thing. People seem to still get this idea that they should put stuff like this in their personal statement, and I don't know where that's coming from, but the answer is a hard no. Do not address your shit show in your personal statement. And if you do address it at all in an addenda, it's got to be short and to the facts. Too many people vomit information that just makes their story and explanation worse than having not said anything at all.
Oversharing negative aspects of your experience is one of the most common mistakes people make on their personal statements and on their applications more generally. I mean, there are certain things that you're going to have to disclose. For example, you got a DUI, you got caught cheating on something or other, and it's on your permanent record somehow. You know, maybe if you have there's a 2-year gap in your undergraduate education for some reason,
Mm-hmm.
but you better not focus on the shit show part. If you're gonna talk about the shit show, it needs to be making the shit show go away, not dwelling on it. You're not. The more you talk about it, the more I'm just gonna think you're a shit show. I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
you're a shit show until you like call my attention to it. By the way, I mean I'm looking at your LSAT and your GPA, probably your undergraduate institution, your major. Glance at your resume, glance at your transcripts. I'm not you. I think students think that the schools are looking way more into every single little wrinkle of their application than they probably actually are. They got thousands of applications. We looked at it last night in class. UC Berkeley had, or maybe it was in my office hours on Monday. Anyway, UC Berkeley had 6,000 applications. Of those, they admitted like 1,200 of them in order to get actual matriculation of like 300.
Yeah.
Right? So they got a huge mountain of applications. They're going to admit a pretty healthy chunk of those. They're admitting like all 20% of the applications they received. And then of those, they're going to get maybe a quarter of the people that like them back, or actually accept the offer of admission because they have other offers of admission from a million other schools.
Yeah.
You don't need to call attention to the negatives of your application. They want to admit you. They have a huge stack of applicants. They're admitting most of the people that they're going to admit, they're admitting on the numbers anyway. You might think it was a shit show, but I don't know that it's a shit show worth discussing. Certainly not in your personal statement.
Yep.
Should we read it?
Yeah, go for it. You got it?
I got it. It says, growing up in Vancouver's downtown east side, I witnessed extreme poverty, violence, and murder, friends trafficked into the sex trade, and the breaking down of souls by drugs and alcohol.
It's not about you. I mean, yeah, you witnessed this, but again, we've talked about seeing things and it's very passive. Watching other people fail or succeed is not you failing or succeeding. And we don't want to hear about your failures, anyways. This is also kind of grim, and it's also from when you were growing up. I really don't see any points for any of this.
No, I would cut that entire sentence. It's a bummer, man. What? Yeah, Vancouver is a super nice place. You also can walk around the corner and see people with literally needles hanging out of their arms in downtown Vancouver. Canada has a much more liberal drug policy where they don't like immediately throw those people in the slammer. They just kind of try to get them treatment and stuff. And I think it's a much better approach actually to the drug problem than criminalizing it. But nonetheless, heroin is very, very bad and does cause the breaking down of souls. But you're not telling me anything I don't already know. Like, there's urban poverty, violence, murder, sex trafficking, drugs. Yeah. And we're here to learn about A. We're not here to learn about the drug problem in Vancouver. Right? So the question I would always ask is, well, what did you do about it?
Yep.
And if you did something about it, start with that. Second sentence, born into poverty. See, and again, it's like, okay, so you're a poor little kid. Might be a good diversity statement.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, maybe there's something here for diversity, but I'm struggling to see how this is going to fit into personal statements.
I'm not here to fill up my law school with poor. I'm imagining a wayfish, shoeless, dirty-footed kid walking around the urban poverty. That's not the people that are coming to my law school. I'm admitting adults to my law school with shoes on. Whether they came from poverty or not, that's a matter for the diversity statements, sure, but it's not like you're not putting your best foot forward here. You're making yourself look like someone who is disadvantaged. And although I feel for you, I'm not letting you into my law school based on sympathy. Right? I mean, I'm building a team of winners. I want people who are going to win, be successful. And you telling me about all the poverty you came from isn't telling me about you being successful, not yet at least. So it's like too much background about poverty.
Yep.
Born into poverty. My childhood included lining up at soup kitchens, shoplifting, oh my God, to meet basic needs, and spending countless hours at local resource centers. Having fled civil war, my immigrant parents worked as building managers in some of the community's most decrepit hotels. Despite their best efforts, my family did not always have food on the table, but their hard work ensured that we always had a roof over our heads. Are you with me to just copy paste this whole thing into a diversity statement?
Yep.
You're not selling me on you. I'm not picturing you as an attorney. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just not seeing you as a successful. You haven't given me anything positive about yourself. You haven't showed yourself doing anything.
You showed that you come from challenging circumstances, but there are a lot of people who come from challenging circumstances that have no right to be in law school. It's
Exactly.
not
And
a ticket.
yeah, it's like, I mean, because let's be really honest, the vast majority of people who come from these circumstances are not qualified for law school. They probably didn't even graduate high school or graduate, let alone graduate college. So there's an army of people who come from a background like yours. And it's a social problem. These are circumstances that you certainly can overcome, but you got to get to the overcoming part if you're going to make me start picturing you as someone who's going to be successful in my law school.
Yeah.
Working non-standard hours, whatever that means. My parents were unable to provide the care and supervision required for young children. With my grandfather's support, my family avoided the radar of child welfare services and stayed together. My grandfather was a staple in the community. Who cares? Do you care, Ben?
Nope, this is not about you yet. I'm waiting.
I mean, I do actually, in fact, care. But it's just people don't understand the purpose of this writing assignment. The purpose of the writing assignment is to portray yourself as somebody who is going to kick ass in my law school. And you telling me about your grandfather being a staple in the community, if anything, I'm like, wait a second now, your grandfather was a staple in your community, but at the same time, you're like dodging child protective services for some reason.
It's a little confusing.
It's confusing. And anyway, you're a child still. What you experienced as a child is only interesting to the extent that it affects what you have done as an adult.
And it's taking too long to get there. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm curious to see where this goes, but I think the argument you're effectively trying to make is a sympathetic one, right?
Yeah.
Accept me because my challenges were, yeah.
Got the immigrant parents. I had to shoplift, which, boy, don't mention that. Wow.
But you have to think about, do you want to make the argument that you should be accepted because you need help? Or do you want to make the argument that you should be accepted because you're a badass?
Yeah.
One argument is a lot stronger than the other. And right now, the argument you're making is the first one.
No, it's like, Your Honor, you should let my client off because my car broke down this morning on the way to court and I didn't have money to pay the toll. And, like all of these hardships that you endured isn't really building a case for your desired outcome.
The judge could look at you and say, I'm really sorry that that's your situation. A lot of judges wouldn't give a shit, but some would say, I'm sorry that you're in that situation or you came from that situation. But my job right now is to decide whether this person is innocent or guilty or deserves a sentence or not. My job is to decide, should you be admitted to my law school and will you likely succeed here? And by the way, I have an obligation to make sure to not accept people who might fail because that's a disservice to not only us, but to you.
We did a passage last night on cosmic justice. It's from test C2.
Okay.
It was a comparative reading passage about cosmic justice, where basically both of the passages, the main point was cosmic justice is bullshit. We are not omniscient beings, says passage A, Therefore, we can't possibly take into account all of everybody's background. We can't possibly know everything about your circumstances. And so it makes no sense for us to try to dispense this cosmic justice that takes into account all factors. Passage B goes on to make a different argument, saying, well, even if we could do that, it would ruin the deterrent effect if we were to say, well, because you came from these circumstances, we're going to allow you to get away with murder. It was a more pragmatic argument against cosmic justice. But it seems as if that's what it seems as if that's what A is going for here, right? Is like, well, I really went through some shit. That's why you should admit me.
I mean, I realize that may not be where you're going, and you may say, hey, look, I'm successful now. But the point is that at this point, it sounds like you're trying to make the sympathy argument, the cosmic justice argument, and you can lose us at any moment. We could stop right now and be like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah. And we've given the blanket advice before. Don't talk about your childhood. Don't talk about junior high. Don't talk about high school. Anything high school and before is just not probably what you should be talking about. I'm not admitting children to my law school. I'm not admitting high schoolers to my law school. I'm admitting adults to my law school. And so I want your personal statement to make you look like an adult. Right now, all I'm doing is I'm picturing a poor person, a poor child, which no matter how much of a bleeding heart I might be, I'm not admitting poor shoplifting children to my law school. So you got to get to the adult bit. I think you can copy all this, use it in a diversity statement, but I don't think it's even one shred of appropriate for your personal statement.
Agreed.
To my siblings and me, so this is A is going on about their grandfather. To my siblings and me, he was our primary caregiver and the person with whom we shared most of our childhood memories. Who cares? Despite the critical support that my grandfather provided, he was ordered to leave the country due to his age and my parents' inability to support him financially.
Ouch. I don't know what happened.
Also, you had just said that he was a staple in the community, which is now really confusing. Like he's a staple in the community makes me think that he's this like really admirable, honorable provider, but then now you're shoplifting and he's getting deported. Very confusing.
Age
and not about you. I hate all of this. I don't think this is on the right track at all. Learning about our situation, the premier at the time, Michael F. Harcourt, founder of the Vancouver Community Legal Assistance Society, intervened. Premier Harcourt wrote a letter of support for my grandfather, and through an appeal process, my grandfather was able to stay in the country.
This sounds like an origin story. This is why I want to go to law school.
Yeah, it's like, because my family was involved in this one legal case, that's why you should admit me to law school. That's a terrible argument. That's a terrible argument. That makes you look so naive. That's just like, it makes it look, oh, this happened to me. No, literally.
It didn't even happen to you. It happened to your grandfather.
A has done one thing so far in this personal statement, which is
to witness.
Well, okay. A has done a few things. The one action, though, that I remember A taking is shoplifting.
Yeah.
So
okay.
A
shoplifting.
So far, he or she has lined up at a soup kitchen and shoplifted and witnessed some stuff, including the grandfather almost getting deported. There's unnecessary garbage in here about Michael F. Harcourt, founder of the Vancouver. I don't care. What? Who cares? I'm not here to learn about that guy. I probably already know that. Presumably, the law school knows more about this person than you do. So what? Why are you telling them about that person? They're not here to learn about that person or your grandfather. They're here to learn about you. And all of this can go. None of this, I wouldn't save one word of any of this. Third paragraph. This series of events taught me that even amidst some of Canada's greatest public disorder, the law could be applied as a powerful tool for good. He or she is a new listener to the show.
Yeah.
Apparently, because none of this is good. You don't tell the law school about the glory of the law. They
The
know
law is
so much
good,
more
therefore
about
you
it than
should
you
admit
do.
me.
Jesus, they know so much more about it than you do. You know, it's kind of like a bringing sand to the beach type of a situation. You're just like, they sell law school. That's what they do. And you're now telling them about how good their product is.
Yeah.
They don't, what? For this reason, I have believed in the law, regardless of the trials and tribulations I have experienced as a radicalized individual.
Now I'm scared. You're radicalized? What does that mean?
Do you think law schools are looking for radicals? No. Law schools are looking for good worker bees.
Yep.
This experience has fueled within me a deep
Passion?
Ugh. If there's one word I don't want you to include in your personal statement, it's passion for community and public service with an overarching interest in the rule of law. What the fuck are you even talking about? You have an overarching interest in the rule of law? Okay. What? What do you mean? Since your grandfather almost got deported, therefore you have an overarching interest in the rule of law?
And it's a situation actually in which the law was violated in an attempt to correct a wrong, right? The law actually didn't save your
The
grandfather
law was
here.
about to deport
The
your grandfather.
politics of the situation.
And you miraculously appealed the law. Anyway, you haven't done jack shit here. You're telling me all of these things about what you believe about the law. You haven't been to law school, therefore I give no shits what you believe about the law. People who haven't gone to law school don't know anything about the law. Even people who have gone to law school, what they have realized is how little they know about the law. You haven't gone to law school yet, so you think you know things about the law.
I feel
You
like we've
don't.
said this so much that I hate to repeat it, but I think we need to. Apparently, people still aren't getting the message. 30% of applicants say that they want to pursue some sort of public service or public interest, yet only 1 or 2% actually do anything that might be remotely considered public service. So if you're an admissions officer and you're reading this, you're shaking your head saying, yeah, really? You want to go into public interest? Join the group of liars, essentially.
I think law schools actually encourage this type of application because they just want everybody to apply, right? When you look at law school personal statement advice from law schools, like if you let the fox guard the hen house, law schools are like, oh, write about anything you want. Tell us about your origins of your interest in the law. Tell us about your passion for community and how you want to be a public interest lawyer, right? But the truth of who actually ends up practicing law is far more pragmatic. It's much more about money. And so it's just like, I don't know, the law schools are, well, the business that they are in involves ripping off like half the people who go to their school. That's just true. I mean, half the people who go to most law schools don't practice law, right? Or they don't practice for very long. And so I don't know. It's like what you're doing here. It's almost like you're just giving the school permission to, yeah, okay, your numbers are good enough. We'll admit you. And of course, we're going to charge you full tuition. The situation's not nearly as bad in Canada, by the way. The tuitions are not like outrageous like they are in the United
Mm,
States. The scholarships
yeah.
aren't outrageous like they are in the United States. So I don't want to shit
Yeah.
on specifically um, University of British Columbia. I'm talking about American law schools more than I'm talking about Canadian law schools, but I don't know. Anyway, you're just this origin story, as you say, Ben, is not really convincing me. Anybody could come up with an origin story like this. Your reasons for this overwhelming passion that you have for the rule of law, I don't believe it. I just don't believe you until you demonstrate that you have done anything about it.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Who are you? Who are you now today? What do you do? I first attempted to pursue this interest through the study of criminology and a career in policing. Okay, now we're talking about adult stuff. I'm assuming criminology undergrad started off as a cop. That's definitely legal adjacent shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just so much rather hear a story about what you do as a cop.
Yep.
I was well into my first degree and positioning myself for a job when I had a moment of realization that would ultimately change my career path. Ben's shaking his head. You don't like the moment of realization? There's too
No, it
many
just,
moments of realization going on in this statement.
well, there's just like, also, even if this is true, right? Moments of realization, I think, are revealing to the person who has them. Like you're excited, you're like, oh wow, cool. But happens so often in these personal statements that we read on the show, they have the opposite of the intended effect. So instead of it being like this glorious revelation from heaven, all of a sudden I'm sitting here going, okay, like you're making a career move based on like a momentary realization. There wasn't like a thoughtful deliberation about what you should do. It doesn't show leadership. It just shows kind of like living by the seat of, what is the phrase? I don't even know. But anyways,
Yeah, and anyway, all we care about is what happened after this moment of realization.
yeah,
We don't care about how the twists and turns of all of you thought you wanted to do this, but then you realized you actually wanted to do that, but then you ended up having an epiphany to do this other thing. It's like, I don't care. Get to the point about you taking action, you thinking things, you feeling things, you realizing things is not you doing things. And so I want one shred of action from A. What did you do? I had a moment of realization. Okay, but I was on the volunteer patrol with the Vancouver Police Department's Citizens Crime Watch when a call came in over the radio about a man who had stolen 6 sandwiches from a 7-Eleven in. My unit drove to the area, and when we arrived, there were at least 9 police cars with lights blazing and a weathered man lying on the cement under arrest. I remember feeling embarrassed and ashamed by the comments made around me. What comments? I was disgusted by this response to poverty. What response? This was the moment I decided to switch career paths and pursue a degree in social work. Little did I know the impact that this decision would have on my life. Okay, Ben, we have to cut all 4 of these first pair. This is not what we want.
yeah.
Tell me about your career as a social worker, okay? Just cut all this bullshit and tell me what you do as a social worker. All of this epiphanies and realizations, and by the way, you just broadly shit on the entire Vancouver Police Department. I don't know if you realize that or not, but like this dude stole sandwiches. They arrested him, and now you're just embarrassed by comments which you don't even describe. I don't think you should describe them because I don't think you should tell the story. But you're just like, oh, look at basically you're like, oh, these dirty cops arresting this guy. What? Okay. I believe you that you're passionate about all these issues. And I'm sure that the cops were in the wrong here. I believe you that they said shit they shouldn't have said, and they probably treated this guy in a way that they shouldn't have treated him. I'm
They
willing
didn't
to grant you.
understand the poverty that led to his situation, but it's not an argument you want to make or
It's
need to
not a,
make. It's
it's
yeah.
not about you. You shitting on the cops is not you selling yourself. You know what I mean? And so it's like the origin stories have to go. The shitting on other people has to go. The complaining about problems in society has to go. It's all really common. It's like people think that they're telling this beautiful, sad story, but in truth, it's like so mundane. I mean, we see more personal statements that look like this than not. It's so common. It's so boring. You know, and what I was really here to learn about was what you do. Sounds like they're about to get around to it here by telling me something about their social work career,
Yep.
which would be great. But, you know, instead I'm getting the whole long build up, and little did I know the impact this decision would have on my life. What
What
impact?
impact?
What are you fucking talking about?
Let's see it. Let's see it. Just show us the
Get to
impact.
the point. God damn. I completed my Bachelor of Social Work at an Indigenous post-secondary institution where we dove deep into the topics of colonization, social justice, and Indigenous rights. I
I
thought you were
took
going to tell me
classes.
about your social work career.
Yeah.
Now you're rambling to me about what you studied in college. I mean, it's on your resume and transcripts. I reconnected with my indigeneity. That's a word I've never seen before. My indigeneity. I'm sure you don't capitalize that word, by the way. Challenged previously held beliefs and values and expanded my overall understanding of the world.
It's all telling. It's all
Blah,
telling.
blah, 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 blah. My undergrad, I learned so much, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This is where I came into my own as an individual and recognized my interest in social policy.
It's telling. What the heck? Anyone could say this. Oh, I've learned so much about the world. I've learned so much about myself. I've really figured out what I want to do. Okay. What are you doing? What
Also,
are
I
you
already thought
doing?
you had a deep passion for community and public service with an overarching interest in the rule of law since that time that your grandpa almost got deported. So what
Yeah,
is
this
it
is
with
like a weird
epiphany after
twist.
epiphany after epiphany of you learning the same thing 1,000 times?
Yeah.
Um, okay, last few paragraphs. Although I struggled with poverty throughout my time as an undergraduate, I was determined not to let it dictate my future. When I was accepted into a Master of Social Work program, I tossed a mattress, a pillow, and some blankets into the back of my old Ford Explorer and set off to Calgary, prepared to live out of my car. At this point, education had opened doors for me that I had never imagined, and I knew that the benefits of completing my degree would outweigh the detriment of homelessness. The difficulties I encountered in pursuing this degree were great, but my perseverance and ability to access resources proved greater. I graduated with a new level of self-confidence, which I continue to carry with me today.
It's all telling. I mean, anyone could say this. The difficulties I encountered in pursuing this degree were great. Oh, sorry, I went on. Did you already read that? Oh, no, you did read that. But my perseverance and ability to access resources proved greater. Anyone could copy that sentence, throw it into their
Yeah,
personal statement, and we would be none the wiser because we have no way of telling whether that's true or not.
everyone who is still alive has persevered, right? I mean, like everyone has encountered difficulty.
In pursuing
Fr-
their degree, too.
From a relativist position, everyone has encountered equal difficulty, by the way. And everyone has done an equal amount of perseverance. If it's all relative, then
Uh,
it's no one's experience is different from anyone else's. I'm not saying that that's a fact. I'm just saying to your point, Ben, I'm agreeing with you that you could copy
Mhm.
and paste that into literally anyone's personal statement and it would mean the exact same thing.
Yeah. 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 Because the
Also, I
I gotcha.
graduated with a new level of self-confidence, pure telling. I don't believe that you're that self-confident unless you show it to me through your actions. Um, I would move literally all of this into a diversity statement. I don't see anything here that is a good personal statement topic.
And you're gonna have to delete a lot of it once it gets there. But
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's a lot of it is oversharing and too much complaining, too much whining about all the injustices in the world. We know about those. It's condescending. Through the current global pandemic, I have had the opportunity to utilize my education and experience to support my community. What does that mean? Too vague. Give me specifics. At Luma Medical Center, I work with Vancouver's urban Indigenous population, providing counseling services during this critical time. We're getting closer, Ben, but it's
Yeah.
still I work with instead of like what you actually do.
Yep. What does work mean? Be specific. Work is vague.
Providing counseling services. You could say I counsel, I meet with, I help them do XYZ, I research this for them, I help them fill out this paperwork, I get these government resources for them.
I connect
I
them with, uh,
exactly
pro
job
bono
counseling, I
attorneys.
work
What
with
do you
them on
do?
their resume, I help them fill out the application for McDonald's, whatever it is. Like but it's got to, let's get to the specifics. I think that's where we would encourage A to expand. I think all the
Yeah.
rest of it can go, and we need to expand on some, like, what do you do right now? What are you doing working with these people? I have also been driven to teach and am currently an instructor at the Nicola Valley Institute of Technology. Here, I have the privilege of supporting Indigenous students through their educational journeys during the most challenging time in some of their lives. Why do people try to go so big picture? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're taking a picture of Earth from outside of our solar system, and we can't even see anything on the ground. We got nothing about you. What do you mean you support them through their educational journeys during the most challenging time in some of their lives? What are you talking about? What do you
What
do?
what do you do to support them? What do you do at
Right.
work?
Right. And why are you
At least
complaining about their challenges still? It's so
okay,
much
so
about challenges of other people.
COVID, which has got to be tiring for admissions officers at this point. But at least you are now talking about something that you're on the topic of your action, right?
But
You
we need to drill
or
down to
yes.
these specific actions.
So
You've
at
given
least right
the
now you're
conclusion.
focusing on Earth, right? As opposed to focusing on like,
Right.
fucking Mars or
Right.
some other like black area of the
It's
space.
outside the Milky Way before all this. Now we're getting into like, okay, now we're getting closer to where we could start to learn things about what you actually do.
But we need to zoom in substantially.
Yes, more.
Yep.
Overall, so now it goes back the other way though, right? Because the next
Zoom
sentence
back
says,
out.
overall, I have used this moment to continue learning and to support individuals through these difficult times. By the way, you're repeating yourself so much.
Yeah.
You just said it's the most challenging time in some of their lives and you support them through their journeys.
Let's
Then
take another picture of Earth from far away.
overall, I do the same thing again. Okay,
Yeah.
but we don't know what you actually do to support these people.
Yeah.
Last paragraph, I never believed it possible for me to pursue a Juris Doctorate at the University of British Columbia. Don't say Juris Doctorate. I followed other passions which have ultimately contributed to solidifying my purpose for law school. What?
What?
Like
What
what
passions?
other passion, and
What?
how does that solidify your purpose for law school? I know you're applying to my law school. I know you want to go to law school. You don't have to convince me of that. The possibility of continuing my public service through law excites me. I hope to use my experience and privilege to continue supporting individuals, families, and communities through new and meaningful avenues. And that's the end of the statement.
I'm sorry. You need more substance.
Yeah, for me, this is quite bad, like a D. The writing could be worse, so it's not an F.
No, the writing is not great, but it's not horrible. And this is what we talk about, right? Content and style. And I think A is confusing his or her style with the success of the personal statement. It's like, oh, my sentences are fairly clear, which they are. It's not like you're using big words a lot of the times, but unfortunately, your content is just totally lacking, and it's 10
Well,
times
what
more
did we
important.
actually learn about A? Again, it's an impersonal personal statement, right? It's like we're not okay. I have learned that A grew up poor. I've learned that A is indigenous. I have learned that A studied indigenous stuff and weirdly criminal justice and wanted to be a cop maybe, and then kind of got into social work. And A had described this as potentially a shit show. And now that's like the impression that I'm left with actually, is that, oh, this doesn't really make very much sense.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Nobody's story makes sense. They don't expect your story to make sense.
But you don't need to tell a story that doesn't make sense.
No.
You focus
You
in
can
on the
tell a
work
story
you
that
did.
does make sense by
Yeah.
just telling me about one of these clients that you worked with, not so much about them, but what you did, what you do
For them. Yep.
You can show me a day in the life at work. You can take me through one particularly challenging client and the success that you were able to find with that client.
Or you could
You're
talk about
looking,
your teaching at this Institute of Technology. What do you teach there? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Show me what it's like in your classroom. I mean, and I think I would probably pick one or the other. Either focus on the social work or focus on the teaching, and just do a deep dive into one of those things, because they're going to come away then going, oh, a social worker works with indigenous people, wants to go to law school now. Awesome. Look at all this great work that they did for these indigenous people. Awesome.
Yep.
But not you want to help the indigenous people. You do fucking help the indigenous people, and you got to be specific about what you do to help them. Alternatively, if you focus on the teaching, show me you kicking ass for one of your students. Show me you kicking ass in your classroom, maybe during COVID. Fine, whatever. But show me a picture of you kicking ass, and then I come away going, oh, a teacher.
Yep.
Kicked ass through COVID, wants to go to law school. Great. But instead, the picture that's being painted here is, oh, grew up in poverty, really kind of meandering, looks like couldn't find a path in life, maybe still hasn't found a path in life. Is this person a social worker? Are they a teacher? Huh?
Yeah. And now you want to go to law school? You seem lost. If you said, I'm a social worker, this is what I do. Now I'm going to go to law school because I want to take this to the next level. I'd be like, wow, you're an adult and you see the direction of your life.
People think that they can just keep restating their passions over and over and over, and that that's going to carry any weight. But what they don't understand is that it's so easy for everyone to just over and over say how passionate you are and say again and again what you want to do. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to learn about what you actually do. And so you got to just go deeper into one of these areas. Because, yeah, right now, I mean, it comes off as very young. it comes off as like, oh, right out of college, maybe had a couple different ideas about what they wanted to do, still haven't sorted it out.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're going to change the world for indigenous people by going to law school. Whether or not that's actually feasible, we don't know. Instead of all these conclusions about what you're going to do with your Juris Doctor, you need to talk about what you actually do right now.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Nope. Thank you for writing in. I hope that helps you. I hope you understand the analogy that we're trying to give you with the earth.
Study hard for the LSAT, by the way. I mean, continue working on that. The LSAT is much more important than your personal statement. You really need to nail the LSAT. They know your LSAT score before they're reading your personal statement, I would assume, in almost every case. And so, like, get the numbers in the right spot so that they will take you more seriously. Then with this personal statement, yeah, I mean, I think we need to focus on the last 6 months or year of your life. Tell us a story, maybe 2 stories about you actually providing the support that you keep vaguely talking about without any specifics.
100%.
If you enjoyed the last 20 minutes of the podcast, you also would probably enjoy our personal statement wood chipper that we do as part of the LSAT Demon. We get a lot of personal statements into the show, and we cover as many of them as we can. Help at thinkinglsat.com, and we'll cover, maybe if you're lucky, we'll cover your personal statement on the show. We would love to be able to do that for you. We do, right now we're doing 2 per week as part of the Demon Live subscription. It's basically first come, first served. We just put 2 people on the agenda every week and shred them for Demon Live subscribers. It's just one of the services that we offer. I have a co-host, Ben. Did you see this on Slack? Did you see who's going to co-host the wood chipper with me next week?
The one and only.
The one and only A-Dot. Annalisa is going to join me. I think it's going to be much better to have 2 people doing it instead of just one. So anyway, I'm very much looking forward to that. That's going to happen the day after this show airs, because the wood chipper is moved to Tuesday next week because of the holiday. Anyway, that's all at lsatdemon.com if you want to learn more about what we offer there.
Cool. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Thinking LSAT and at LSAT Demon. Nathan's Twitter is nfox. Leave us a review on iTunes. And as Nathan just said, email help@thinkinglsat.com for questions for the show, or help@lsatdemon.com for questions for the LSAT Demon team. That email is managed by 3 or 4 of our finest, so you should get a response pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, that was episode 278 of the Thinking LSAT podcast. Thanks all y'all for listening. Don't pay for law school. And oh, nice knowing you. Switch that around, but whatever. Cool, man. I know we have these video prompts, but it's late. I should probably go.
We can do them real fast.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, we're still rolling, so
I'm ready.
Okay.
Well, yeah. Welcome to your Demon subscription! Exclamation point.
Welcome to your Demon Basic subscription.
Oh, basic. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be separate videos for new basic, new live, or new premium, new live. So it's basically like, say welcome, and then just we'll go right away into how do you make the most out of your basic subscription.
Okay. Welcome to Demon Basic. Nathan, what do you advise?
I think that people should just get started right away with drilling. I mean, the heart of the Demon is the drilling function and all of our explanations that accompany the drilling. The AI tutor is going to learn about you as you go. And all you got to do is just get going, man. So you have a subscription to Demon Basic. You've got access to 6,000 LSAT questions, and you need to start working on them. So
yeah,
hit drill. Do you recommend people start with LR or reading comp or games?
I think LR is the easiest to get started with because within 5 minutes, you've probably answered one question and you're already looking at an explanation and learning. But that doesn't mean you should shy away from games or reading comp. In fact, if you're not sure where to start, do 5, 10 LR questions a day, one game a day, one reading comp passage a day. It's a good mix up, I guess.
Yep. As you continue to study, you should start mixing in some timed sections and maybe some full timed tests. We tend to emphasize timed sections more than full tests, but your Demon Basic subscription gives you access to as many of those as you want to do. Basically, drill most days. Some days mix in a timed section. Maybe once a week do a timed practice test.
Yeah.
And it's very simple. It's a simple formula. You learn from your mistakes. So when you're drilling, if you miss a question or if you get it right but you struggled with it, read the explanations, watch the videos, make sure you understand. If you're not sure you understand, hit the ask button and write out a question. We'll get back to you within 24 hours with a response. And that's how you learn, is you make mistakes or you struggle and you're not exactly clear, and you use those explanations to make it clear. Use the ask button if you need to make it clear. It's a little harder to do that with your practice sections and with your practice tests because you have several mistakes that need to be reviewed. That's why we emphasize drilling a little bit more than we emphasize those timed sections or timed tests. But do mix in, every other day, maybe you do a timed section, and then make sure you take the time to do that full review of every question you missed, especially.
Yep.
Anything else for new basic subscribers?
I wanted to say check out the existential or whatever quantifiers, but
A
that
joke
doesn't
from the
exist in
podcast
the
we just
deep.
recorded
Yeah.
that they are not watching.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why it's a bad joke. But anyways,
that's why we have Annalisa to edit this. Yes.
Good.
Welcome to the Demon. Really happy you're here. We have had hundreds of students make incredible progress with just the Demon Basic subscription. So you have what we think is the best study tool that's available, which is the LSAT Demon. And if you work hard, we know that you will improve. So study every day, basically. Do a little bit here and there. The drilling feature is perfectly designed for, man, you got 5 minutes while you're waiting for a bus or whatever. Do one question of logical reasoning. You could constantly be improving. And if you struggle with anything, we're here to help. So just hit that ask button and write us a clear question about what you're struggling with, and we'll get back to you right away so that we can keep you moving forward.
Cool.
Okay, that'll all be useful. I'm going to